This is AI 101, March 1st, 2024, on Friday. And I'm coming, and a number of us are just coming from a Midjourney Jam demo I did in Leia's art space, which was super fun. And let me also share the link. Sometimes we use the notes more, sometimes we use them less, but let me share the link to the notes thing that I got started. And maybe I'll share my screen too. If I can find the big green button. So here's the link to the chat. You can go there. You don't have to go there. You don't have to log in. You can do these 3 buttons up here to change the way it looks. So depending on who shows up, we end up talking about different things. And these are some of the things that I like to talk about in AI 101 and the AI 101 crew likes to talk about. The very last session we had was kind of a pop-up session about Claude. It ended up being about APIs, a lot more than about Claude, but it was a pretty good talk about APIs, I have to say. So what should we talk about today? More Midjourney, the Midjourney versus Dolly.
I have just a quick question for you all,
Yes.
especially since you're all image people, or a lot of you are. I'm just trying to, for free, enhance a low-res picture that I took with a really cheap digital camera many years ago, because I want to use it for a greeting card. And I know there's AI apps out there that will enhance pictures. And I was hoping you could recommend one because I've been searching like crazy and I haven't found one yet.
I'll take the first answer. For a single image, the thing to do is to give it to me and let me run it through Topaz.
Okay,
Which
cool.
is down here someplace.
Thanks.
Topaz is, and then I forget the name of the other one that's more about infinite zoom, but Topaz is really good at upscaling images. I don't know if I can show. This is a AI image, which is a whole different thing, but it can go from something fuzzy like this to something sharp like this, and it cares. This is a bad demo, but it cares about different textures and stuff like that. And so it says, oh, this must be a ruffle of fur or something. And so it did a ruffle of fur rather than, it knew these were straighter lines and this had a different texture than that. So
Okay, great.
the
Thanks.
the caveat is that if people, I had a good demo of this once. If you have a really crummy photo, you can't necessarily make it good. If the data is not there for the way that upscaler works is with AI, but it's tuned for upscaling. Some of the AI upscalers are just tuned for upscaling AI images, and they only go up 2x or maybe 4x, but they're not very good at it. That one is really good at anything, including photos, but it has to have something good to work with. Other folks?
Okay. Yeah, Claire, you have to go on mute because we can hear you. I think you're talking to your dog.
Are you sure it's my dog? Yeah, it is.
I
Sorry,
don't know.
I
It sounds like you're saying, come here, come here.
Other folks? Preferences, thoughts?
I have another question about images and how you guys work. And it's great that Leah's here too. Workflow. How do you keep track of workflow, like how you did what you did, kind of tracking? And if you could put that on the list, that would be great.
Say more about what you mean by workflow.
Well, my understanding is that I think workflow is the right word, that when a person's working in Photoshop or a variety of apps, they're doing things in a certain order usually. And I thought that was called workflow, but maybe it's called another word. And I do that a lot myself when I'm processing photo images to use for greeting cards for my relatives. But I can't remember how I did stuff in the past because I didn't keep track of my workflow. So I'm thinking, well, hopefully maybe you guys have some suggestions on how to keep track of what you do when you're processing images, especially after post-processing kind of stuff.
I'm happy to jump in if you want. I can talk
Yeah,
about image processing
I'm
all
gonna
day
stop sharing.
if you want. There's a tool called Lightroom. I don't know if you're using it, RJ, but
Lightroom.
Lightroom, it's
Yep.
Adobe, and that's what it does, is it helps you standardize your workflow. So if you do a lot of like ingesting images, it helps you all of the things you would need to do to images over and over and over again. It can help you with that. It sort of knows that ahead of time. And the other thing you can do is in Photoshop, they have a tool called Actions, where you can record what you do. So if you do the same thing over and over again, you can record an action and save it, and then you can apply it to other images. And then there's like, I know that this sounds really unexciting. There's just a good old Google Doc that I just wrote down what I did.
Yeah, I think that's more what I would be using. I did hear of Lightroom Lightroom several years ago, I think,
Yep.
but I didn't quite go in that deep. But yeah, so when people do it manually, and this sort of maybe relates to what other people asked about for this meeting, how to track your images and stuff like that. Maybe it's sort of a family of problems that can be solved with a similar approach. How do you keep track of things?
I think, well, so RJ, you might guess my answer. I too have, let me show this. Uh,
And if you do it in Obsidian, like how would you do it? Like,
I think I didn't even say Obsidian. That's so awesome, RJ. Uh, so this is a workflow that I'm developing. Actually, I'm mid developing it. This is for my Pretty Pictures subscription service, and I have to make a new email, 3 times a week. So and I have to do a lot of work. It's got 18 images in it, and I've got to do certain things to change the file names and take out metadata and make thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of stuff altogether. So this was me, kind of like Leah said, a Google Doc. I'm using Typora or Obsidian here. This is Typora, but this was also compatible with Obsidian. It's an interesting thing because you can see I started with a checklist, and this was me thinking of all the things that need to get done, and then I reordered this a little bit, and then I'm like, whoops, I need to figure out that every email is going to be the same, so it has this subject and this thing at the beginning of it. Make sure to use the HR lines to separate images. Each image has the comment before the image, then the image, then the caption. So this is an email template for me to kind of copy and paste from. And this is a big, long command line thing that does auto caption generation for images. And then this is, I'm making a zip file, so I wanted to keep track of the different folders I put in in the zip file. So this itself is a hodgepodge of stuff that I need to keep track of, and it's not actually quite in order yet. And maybe this should be a separate page in Obsidian. It's not yet. So I'm going through the process of I wrote this for one, and then did the email, and then I made improvements to this and did another email and made improvements. So that's what I do. So then in Obsidian, This actually isn't even in in an Obsidian folder or an Obsidian thing yet. So let me um,
Vault.
let me do. Yeah, let me put it in a vault. So if I reveal in open file location, that's what I was looking for. Right now it's stored along with all my other pretty pictures folders where I'm assembling things. And I'm going through a different, I used to call them work folders. Right now I'm calling them sent instead. And these are the zip files that got created. I can take this and then let me bring up Obsidian. Um, and move these out of the way. Let me get to the right Obsidian, or as an Obsidian I can mess up. Oops, that's the wrong one. This one. This is the website Obsidian, but it works like any other Obsidian thing more or less. So what I would do is have I would have a folder called workflows. And then I want to get that file from the place that's close to the work into the place where I keep track of my workflows, right? So I'm revealing that in Finder and then finding my other Finder window. I'm actually going to leave it in both places right now, so I'm going to copy it instead of dragging it. Oops, I put it at the top. I want to put it in workflows. You'll see that Obsidian lets me, I can do regular stuff on my computer just like their files because they are just files. And then Obsidian also keeps up with that. So I created that directory in Obsidian. I dragged the file in Finder, then I'm back in Obsidian. I would fix the file name because I always like the file names to be the same as the headers. A thing that I do with Obsidian that we haven't really talked about too much is because for a long time I've had it, I do two things together for a thing. But the massive wiki thing uses, we know it uses Git. Um, uh, it uses Git and GitHub, and those are kind of two separate things. So you can use Git without GitHub. To have less complex things in your life. You can add the GitHub part later. So if you just have Git set up, it keeps track of every version. Every time you make changes and do a commit, it's called, it keeps track of that version and you can compare the versions over time and things like that. So um,
And Git is local on your machine here you're talking about, or?
yeah, if you don't use the
Okay.
GitHub part, yeah, it'll
Yeah, that's what
do
I
it
was
all on your
thinking. Yeah.
machine. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know it sounds complicated. Um, I've tried really hard to make as much of this as simple as possible. So there's a trade-off between simplicity and power, right? And Obsidian is a really good balance of power and simplicity. It's got an amazing amount of power and it's pretty easy to use. And it's free to start with. You can use it for free for personal use.
And I was wondering, um, I guess the the problem with having to do all of this kind of stuff in general for workflows, no matter how you do it, is you got to take time to write it all down. And I was
Yep.
wondering that maybe someday I'll pursue using a voice to text app so that it would be writing it all down for me,
Yeah,
and I
that
would
would be
just be
great.
speaking it. Yeah, and I could sort of make sure it's capturing the right words and it's, by seeing the real time dictation results. But yeah, that would be cool.
The other thing to do is every time you use and it's kind of funny, there's a pretty subtle distinction here between Typora and Obsidian. Let me find Typora again. I can be editing Markdown in Typora or Obsidian, right? And I really need Obsidian to do the power tool kinds of things, multiple files and linking between files and stuff. Let me show you a quick, superpower thing that you can do with Obsidian. I think maybe I said something like this maybe should be in a separate file. In Obsidian, it's easy just to select that and say extract it. And then it'll let you name the file. It suggests the header as the name of the file to make. So now I've got a link to that file instead of the whole thing there. And I can, add this to this list as a link instead of having that whole section. And then I can go over to that anytime I want or go back. And then that's here. Obsidian will let you create new files in different places. Sometimes you want it in the same directory as the one that it's next to. Sometimes you don't. Another thing you can do with that same kind of thing is if you want the contents of a file, maybe I don't want it in that checklist. I still want it kind of where it was, but I want it also in a separate thing. You can use an exclamation mark in front of the link, and then it includes it here. And you can still link over to it. Maybe that wasn't the best easy thing to show. It's actually pretty easy to do. It's a little bit hard to comprehend what went on there, but so anyway, what I was saying, if I skip back a couple levels, RJ, you were saying, it's a pain to write all that stuff down. The really important thing to do once you have a workflow like this is you do the work and you change, because anytime you have a complicated thing like this, there's little changes that you have to make, right? Every time you make a change to your process, while you're doing the process, make sure that you go in and change the workflow documentation. So you keep it up to date and you keep it evolving while you're doing your work, and it's super useful. And then, of course, the reason I brought up Typora is because I find Typora is prettier to edit with, and I don't need the extra controls of Obsidian. So if I'm following the workflow and editing it while I'm doing the work, I'm doing it in Typora instead of Obsidian. And just the difference, the little bit of difference between the UI is enough to make this easy for me and this not so easy. So
Can you
figure out how to make
help
it
me?
easy for yourself.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned, I don't know whether you mentioned or not, like, where's the photo image gonna be stored? So that you can, have the two related to each other? Or, yeah, so how do you,
There's
keep that information of your workflow attached or somehow linked to the image so that you can always see what you did?
I kind of know what you're asking. Let me answer that kind of question in a little bit different way. A really common thing to do for photographers, and I'm not a professional photographer, but I'm a big amateur photographer. I don't want to scroll down too much because I don't know what private images I'm going to find here. Nothing exciting so far. These are the tide pools. And this is actually a pretty good example. We went to the tide pools. I can show you, I took lots and lots of photos. Here's more tide pools. Lots and lots of photos, most of them which nobody wants to see because it's boring to sitting through somebody else's slideshow. But I do want to share like 5 of these, right? So an example of a workflow that photographers go through, that's kind of what you're asking for, is I would download all of these, and then I would use an image tool that's fast. This one is the one I would use. This is a different set of images, but I can still show kind of the same thing. Uh, uh, so imagine this is, 100 tide pool pictures, and I want to pick a tool. This tool happens to be called Phoenix Slides, and it's free and it's really good for Mac only. The multi-platform equivalent is XN view, which is also good. Um, but anyway, it's really common for me to go, maybe we should do this a different way. Yeah, this is pretty good. Let's go with this. Um, Whatever tool you've got, you need to be able to run through 100 or 200 images and find the good ones to pull them out and do more stuff with, right? So that's one of the first steps in a workflow. So for me, this is backwards and forwards arrow. I can go through these really quick. While I'm on each one, I can hit the function keys and mark each of these images with group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. I guess, yeah, I can't do group 1. 2, 3, 4, right? So it's really common, and then I can clear it all. So mark them all for this image, put it in groups, or clear it. Sorry, I went too fast there. So say I wanted to pick, 3 or 4 images out of this to ship, and I don't want to pick any women or girls. I don't want to pick anything ugly or scary. This particular prompt set. So that one's good. So I'm going to mark that with a 2. Ship is good. This one is terrible because there's a weird thing there. This, oops, mark the wrong one. This one's good. Let me try to get one more. Okay, so this is a set of images I want to work with. Imagine that I picked 40 instead of 5, right? Now I've got to do something with these, and the way I do it, and this kind of gets to your question, I'm going to hit a command in this which shows that in Finder, this directory in Finder. And then I'm going to, inside this directory, I'm going to make another set of directory, or another directory, actually another set of directories called good, better, best. So now that's in there. And I can hit that tag again to get group 2. So let me I'll select all of these, do a thing that shows them in the Finder, and then, sorry, I've got too many Finder windows open. I guess I lost that one. I'm going to say these are all good, but I don't know if they're best yet. So I'm going to hit Command C here, Command V here. Actually, let me not do it that way. Let me do it. I'm going to delete these and redo that. I'm actually going to drag them out of my master folder there and into good, if I didn't lose them all. Oh, it's saying over on my other screen, it's saying you want me to copy the same images over again. Okay, so now I moved them out of the slush pile and I moved them towards the ones that I care about. Let me look at these again. And imagine 40 of them instead of 5. So I'm going to do the same thing again. This time, I'm going to use that same group 2 thing. There's different ways to tag stuff in different images or different programs. Let me not tag any yet. And we're at good. Clear this tag. Let me take out, let me flag people. Maybe I don't want to ship any people images. Or maybe, well, one way or the other. Let me keep going with the good, better, best. Let me look at these images real quick again. I like this one because it's realistic, and I like this one because it's realistic. Say I'm going for realism. And somehow this one is doing this a little fast. Let me do that again. And so I kind of messed up my group 2 here. It wasn't what I wanted. It's not just real. I'm going to go ahead and deploy group 3 as another flag on just the real ones. So now I can pick just group 3. The clear all the tags and the leave the selection thing is right next to each other, which is why I'm having trouble here. 3. Okay, so this is group 3. Select all these, copy that. Let's move these to better. And again, probably I'm going to move them so I don't have to trip over them again. You know, maybe I didn't get quite enough. I want to go back here and pick, you know, the next good one or better ones. I don't want to trip over the ones that I've already copied. So I like to move them along. And then let's look at this one. Let's pick the very best out of this. I'm going to say it's this one. So then I can go there. So this is kind of an example of a workflow of take a bunch of images, do some stuff with them, and keep, you know, moving them along the pipeline. I have this memorized. I don't need this written down anymore. If it were more complicated or there were more steps or whatever, then I would go and document it like I've got this document, because there's a lot of fancy stuff in here that I don't have memorized. The other thing that we didn't show in here is somebody like Leah, a professional photographer, is going to get some step of this, and then there's going to be additional things wrapped in that workflow. This is a stage where I dump them all in some kind of Lightroom automation or Photoshop automation um, or a freeware image like image graphic, image magic. I'm going to do image magic on all of these and brighten them all or equalize them all or turn them all to grayscale or something like that. And then at some level, you go through the tuning step where you know, at the better ones, the best ones, something like that, go into Photoshop for some additional stuff, maybe cropping or whatever. So that's kind of an image workflow, and also image directory management stuff going on there. A thing to do, I started doing it here. If you do a web search for, you know, image workflow or image photography workflow, photographer's workflow, you'll find a bunch of things like this. And of course, asking our friend ChatGPT would be a great thing to do also. There's a bunch of people who have written out the steps that you might go through. And a lot of them will be very photography related. So this is all about taking photos and getting them kind of automatically cleaned up to the point where you can kind of look at them and decide what you're going to do with them. I think that kind of answered. I danced around your question a lot, RJ, but I think I kind
No,
of
that's
answered it.
okay, because I think this is helpful because it, it impacts so much of what we all are doing now. We're doing the same kind of thing when we write
Yeah.
prompts and we get results, or we make images with the prompts and then the images are the result, or we do post-processing, and
Yep.
keeping track of all that is the big challenge nowadays.
Yep.
And then with, how to do that with Obsidian or some other tools. This has all been great. Thank you.
As a great example, another thing that when you're developing a GPT, you're making a ChatGPT GPT or something for Poe or Flow GPT, you've got that text prompt and you keep wanting to change it, right? So you can totally imagine a Typora page, an Obsidian page that says, here's how I make my GPTs, here's how I set the title, here's how I generate the logo, the different kinds of prompts I like to use when I'm generating a logo. Here's a starter description that I like to use over and over. And then when you're making a particular GPT, you want to keep track of each version of that prompt, that big super prompt, and I know Corey, I think, uses Excel or Google Sheets for that, and that's a good thing to do. You can keep all the prompts, in separate rows or columns or whatever. Obsidian is a good way to do it, especially if you've got the Git plugin installed, so that you can write the prompt, change the prompt a little bit, save that version, change it, save the version, change it, save the version. You've always got a version history of that prompt. And you're right on, spot on, RJ. We do it a lot, and it's kind of funny to me, or sad or something. I've had to do all this file management and version management because I'm a software developer, for a long time. Um, uh, a lot of the work of working with AI is another set of people who do this is scientists or engineers doing lab notes, right? It's the same thing. Let's keep a note of what this experiment is, or, this is how this is the checklist that you go through for tightening the bolts on this structure or whatever, right? All that stuff is important. And as we do more AI stuff, you have to keep track of it. We're not quite up to the point where the tools are doing a good job of tracking it by themselves.
Yep. Yep. This is cool. And I'm sure that this topic will keep on coming up, or this set of topics will keep on coming up over time. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how we all can maybe evolve and help each other, and all get each other up to speed on doing this stuff, because
Yeah.
otherwise we're making stuff and we'll never be able to figure out how we did it. Although things are changing so quickly, you may not be able to reproduce it unless you can get the old version of Mid-Journey or whatever. If it's the new version, then it's the old workflow may not work.
That's very true. But at least you've got it written down and you've got a place to take off from, right? The
Yep.
the There's a loop that you want to find when you're doing something similar over and over. You want to figure out how to kind of systematize it. And you can't systematize it if you're not writing it down. But once you start systematizing it, then you can look for ways to improve it. You can look for, you can keep, when you find a way to improve it, you modify the instructions. So that automation, iteration, improvement loop is really useful
And
for
also,
everybody.
and also, I think a person also learns what to do first or what to do in what order, because for images in particular, if you do a certain thing first,
Hmm.
it may not be the right thing to be doing first. Maybe you need to do something more um, critical that you have to do first, because otherwise you won't get the results. You won't
Yep.
go far if you want to.
Yep. um, that the photography on that we did, where it's adjusting levels and colors and stuff like that. Those are important to do in a certain order. A really good example of that is maybe you want to crop all the images to be 4:3 aspect ratio or something like that. And cropping is kind of an expensive thing because you have to have a human, making sure that they kind of eyeball where the crop goes. If the human spends a lot of time before you make fancy changes like exposure or something, she might have to go back and redo a bunch of work. So you want to do the things that are expensive later in the process. You want to do the things that depend on previous steps later in the process. That order is
Yeah,
really important.
yeah. Years ago, when I first started to look into this, um, I think I did a search and I actually found some people recommending certain kind of workflows for image post-processing. And I was wondering whether people are starting to recommend workflows to use for AI kind of related image work.
Like post-processing or pre-processing or
Either one.
I've got a number of workflows that I use in my Mid-Journey process, including before I make images and then a lot after I make images. And different sets of workflows for different things, right? For posting a show and tell, that's a different kind of workflow than setting up my Pretty Pictures newsletter.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Hey Claire, what's going on?
Can I talk? Yeah, I can. Okay.
Please.
Uh, hi. Sorry about earlier. Just I hope this is a really fast question. Um, I I take a lot of screenshots because I'm almost always doing all of this on my phone. Take a lot of screenshots of images other people have created, real life things, etc., and
Yep.
then use those, incorporate those into blends, etc. Um, I was thinking about what you were saying in the last meeting earlier today about the metadata that gets embedded. If I take a screenshot of one of your images, um, is there metadata embedded in that?
Nope.
But what if Midjourney goes, oh, that's Pete's, and this
Uh,
is his
it
metadata?
it won't.
Okay.
Uh, the I predict it won't. I actually don't
Okay.
really know. We had an interesting problem in the previous call. I was trying to strip the metadata off an image to give it to Midjourney, and then it gives you back a shortened URL that you can use in other places.
Right.
It turned out that even if because I had uploaded that image, even if I took the same image, stripped the metadata and re-uploaded it, it would keep the metadata from the first time I uploaded it, because what it's doing in its little brain, big brain, whatever, is looking at both of those images and going, this is the same image. I don't need to keep two copies
Right.
of it. I'm just going to keep the first one and throw the next
Right.
one away. If it changes at all, that comparison won't match, and it'll
Okay.
say, oh, I need to, that for whatever reason, this is a new image. The human wants it to be a little bit different than the other one. It has to be a different image. That's what'll happen, I
Okay.
think.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the part that got me worried. I didn't want to grab an orange dragonfly wing and then later have revealed your entire secret
Yeah, thank
process
you.
to the world.
Thank you for taking care with that. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Thank you.
It was an interesting lesson in how pervasive, persistent metadata can be, though. You know,
It reminds me a little bit of that first meeting that I think I was in with you, where you were talking about, see this picture that I took on my walk, and this is what Midjourney, I think it might have been, turned it into. And like all of a sudden there's a dog. Well, the reason there's a dog is because there was the tiniest little bit
yeah,
of dog fur in the
yep,
corner of the
yep,
picture that you had taken.
yep.
And so it just, you never know what
It's
it's
very true.
thinking.
If you want to keep something secret, don't share it. And if you share it a little bit, you never know exactly how much you're sharing. It's very true. I didn't need to keep it secret that my dog was in the picture. But it was annoying that that was an example actually of ChatGPT being super sensitive to what's in an image. And sometimes I used to do that. I haven't done it for a while. You give ChatGPT an image and you can say describe this image, or you can say also create a prompt for Dolly or for Midjourney based on this image. So I didn't want the dog at all. And I thought I'd like moved the camera enough to not get the dog, but Paul.
Yes, this is backtracking a little bit, but what's the difference between the results you'd get with a blend and style reference?
Um, it's a good question. Um, and I would love to do the experiment if it won't annoy people. The idea of blend is you take two or more images and you mix them together, kind of. Claire's the blend expert here, not me. But you're trying to get the images smushed together. A style ref, the idea is you lift the style of whatever it is. That woman's face was a good example of, there was a definite style there along with a face. and then you apply it to different things. So I guess that thinking of that image, the woman image, is a good example of maybe thinking through um, a little bit of the difference between. So this image has a definite style, which is the paint strokes, splatter, colors. It has a definite subject, which is the woman's face. So a blend is going to look at this whole thing, and if you blended this with another face, you'd get a mix of her face and somebody else's face. Or if you blended it with a whale, a lot of times you would see the face show up because you're blending a whale and a face. Um, if you style ref this and try to make a whale, it's not really going to think about the face. It's going to think more about the, what the style of this image is. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That's very clear.
The trick for Midjourney is to figure out how to draw that line, right? Actually, let me show this other one that I did do. I used as a style ref. This one is a lot less clear to me what the quote unquote style would be. Um, you know, uh, and then, what is Midjourney going to guess the style is? Does Pete mean insects? Does Pete mean bokeh? Does Pete mean macro? What's the style? Or does Pete just mean orange and yellow? Orange and yellow and white. What's that style? So it was interesting using that and seeing what it came up with. These are the different images that, these are random prompts with that style ref. So it's trying to, you can tell that it picked up that yellow orange backlight kind of thing. Um, uh, and it also picked up that sparkle kind of. Um, I guess maybe a lot of these have that something is in the foreground and something is blurred. And then it also picked up other weird things that I wouldn't have wanted to pick it up. Like there's also water droplets, so it's like, dude, you really need some water droplets here. Even if I can't really figure out how to make the water droplets and the cat work, I'm going to give you water droplets. So sometimes that's good. Like this is great. This is weird, maybe great. So there you go. Super fun to play with. And I guess where I was going with that is Midjourney has to make that call. You know, Internally you can imagine what it's doing. It's got some part of the process which is going, hey, I'm going to show you a picture of a woman's face with abstract paint stuff, or I'm going to show you a picture of this, macro dragonfly thing. Tell me what the style is, and then use that prompt as part of the other, mix that with the other prompts. So where do you draw the line? Just what I was going through. Does he mean insects? Does he mean a macro? Does he mean that light feel? Some things they're happy with the current style ref, and some things they're not happy with the current style ref. And so they've got a whole new system that's going to do it a little bit differently, and they may draw that line differently too. He was talking about the CEO was talking about character reference. If you think about character reference, he was explaining some subtle differences that people might expect, and he said, "Don't be surprised when it doesn't do." And I wasn't paying as much attention for this, but it was like character reference. He said, don't expect it to pick up a t-shirt on somebody's, and apply that as part of the character. A t-shirt is, we decided, is not the character. It's a lot more about the face, maybe the body type and stuff like that. That's what's going to get replicated over. If you like that shirt, figure out a different way to get that replicated. He said similar things about, lips and stuff like that. Thinking about what, if you look at a picture of somebody, what does that character mean? And is somebody going to be happy when it's like, I want to make an animation with this character, but she keeps changing her clothes every time. Is that what you wanted? Is that not what you wanted? So they keep going back and forth or fine tuning that. Clara, did you have another question, or is your just hand just still up?
No,
I don't know why it did that. I'm sorry.
No worries. Don't be sorry. I guess we're not saying sorry in AI Salon. I love it.
AI art means never having to say you're sorry.
Exactly. Um,
I have a little side topic if I could.
yes, please.
I just put it in your HackMD and
Yes.
I'll paste it to, it's this really cool tool that I found because I was trying to make some tables for tracking stuff.
Hmm.
And I know it sometimes this comes up on Zoom calls where you want to track stuff together, and it's not as easy to do in HackMD, I think. So I put the link in there for the, wait a minute, did I put the wrong link in? No, I think I put the right link in.
Looks like a good link.
Um, yeah. So what this is, it's a real-time um, collaboration tool. So let's say we're all together and we want to decide what topics we want to talk about, and each person could have their own column, and each person could see, because yeah, you just pick your table, and it's a really fun, cool, very powerful tool. So yeah, you could pick different topics, and it's good for like brainstorming or any kind of, um, team activity that you can't really collaborate too easily with maybe HackMD, because I don't think HackMD really can handle tables like this. So if you click the share link and give us the share link,
Yep, I did that.
the copy URL, yeah, okay. So if I
Um,
go in here or anybody else, then they could share it. Now, the only limitation is that the sharing won't last forever. This is not like a forever tool,
mhm.
but um, as long as somebody has the file open, it'll last for days and days and days. But if it turns out nobody keeps it open, then eventually, like it may just disappear. But it's good for, in a meeting. That's the whole
Yep,
purpose.
yep. Um, Thanks, RJ. And it would be
You're
good for
welcome.
tables. HackMD does
Or any
tables. I don't
HTML. You
know.
could do any
Yeah.
HTML kind of stuff, and it's WYSIWYG. This is powered by this, what is it called? The CKE editor, which is a very popular editor
Aha.
people used
Yep.
from a long time ago.
Yep.
Yeah,
And still use. Yeah. Um, that's awesome. Thanks. Uh,
welcome.
that real-time collaboration gets used in other places too. Uh, Draw.io is another good tool for collaborative diagramming. It's not so good for collaborative drawing, but
Yeah, I put it in my Yola. I added a whole bunch of those different collaboration tools, and I
yep,
put it. Let's see, I added it. Let me put it in the Zoom. So there, I added it, the collaboration here, COLLAB, collaborate. All right, so there's a category I put in called, where is it? Here, I put in a category, if you can do a control find for cool tools other than AI. Oh, wait a minute, no, that's not the one. Yeah, okay, yeah. So there's TL Draw, Excalidraw, Draw.io, which you recommended, which is also diagrams.net. The HTML editor that I mentioned. There's another one that's creates tables and it's permanent. Um, Table dot with two B's .de. And then of course, the ones that you were starting to mention, like Workflowy, CheckVis, Dynalist,
yep,
um, and you do HackMD. And I also put in your crab.fit meeting scheduler. There's editpad.org, right URL, text doc. And what's cool about this is essentially what you can do with a lot of these is make an instant web page that has a
yep.
link and actually lasts a long time, like forever, basically.
Very cool.
So I thought I mentioned those two. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, RJ.
You're welcome.
Um, we should work together a bit and suck this all over into the AI 101 website if you're down, or whatever whatever it makes sense to suck over.
Well, okay, there's too much there though. There's a lot there. The most important essential things maybe, but this is like the result of almost a year of collecting links, and I just wanted to have it in a place where I could keep it organized to see what's the
Yep.
most important, useful stuff at the time, at least, when I was first getting into it.
Yep.
Besides what I have in my browser, I have like a million links in my browser. This is to me was the most useful stuff. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's really,
and
really
it's
cool.
good what Kyle is doing too. Kyle has even a
Yep.
good list. So I put Kyle's list in here also.
Yep.
Kyle's page I put in here.
This one, right?
Yeah, I put a link to that in
Yeah.
my web, my Zola free
Yeah.
website link.
This is
Yeah,
really well curated and up to date.
yeah. But I looked there and I couldn't find an enhanced.
An upscaler. We'll see if RJ comes back. RJ, we lost you. I wonder, we can pop back up and talk about, what should we cover for another half
Appropriate,
hour?
which is really, yeah, really cool.
Sorry, we lost you there for 30 seconds or so, RJ.
Oh, sorry. I was just talking about enhancers, not, I couldn't get them to work, but
Upscalers?
um, yeah, well, I know I've seen videos of AI enhancers where you give it a grainy picture with low detail and it goes and adds all kinds of detail, like, um, it's almost like if it had a magnifying glass and zoomed in and was able to see detail that, wasn't even there in the original image.
Uh, there's another, besides Topaz, there's another, I always forget the name of it. But there's a super zoom thing that I wonder if anybody else remembers the name of it.
And you're not talking about a vector kind of image, right? You're talking about a regular image.
Yeah, regular image. And what it does is, I guess there's a bunch of them. There's one particular thing that, so this would be Stable Diffusion and free. There's one particular tool that everybody got super excited about for a while. I forget what it's called. I guess we'll find it later.
Yeah, it's tricky keeping track of all of these image tools to remember which ones can do what.
Yeah, I wonder, it's not this, no.
Well, infinite zoom, is that just going to be essentially make a regular image sort of act like a vector drawing? It's not going to add
It's,
more detail. It's just going to make it zoom in, right?
yeah, uh, the one I'm thinking of, or even if you did it in Midjourney, it's a little bit different from a vector thing. A vector thing is mathematically perfect, and it has, you can zoom it infinitely.
Right.
Um, uh, the one I'm thinking of especially, and any of the things that use Stable Diffusion or Midjourney or whatever, um, uh, what they do is they they zoom in a little bit, and then they have the image, the AI upscale that part, and then they keep zooming in. And at some point, the AI is inventing detail. It's the detail wasn't there, and it's just the AI doing the thing that image AIs do, which is make it a little bit better, make it look like something. So if you did an infinite zoom into your, from your, I don't know, from a picture of your neighborhood or something like that, it would generate stuff, you know, it could keep generating down to, you know, microscopic level, but all the stuff past any, you know, anything that you could zoom into on the photo itself would be made up,
Right, right. Yeah, that's
plausible but
exactly
not
what I
real.
was, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like if you were to take an image of a person's hand that was from far away and it could, there was no fingerprints on that image at all, but it's
Right,
able to add fingerprints and
right,
even further. Yeah, okay, thanks.
right. We could, let's see, I think we lost most of our Midjourney folks, or some of our Midjourney folks, maybe not all of them. Uh, you know, actually, I have a completely another odd topic. As part of the grand guild renaming, um, AI 101 turned into building 101, which, you know, we've definitely done building in here. Um, but for me, this wasn't the best name, and I was wondering about the thing I came up with was learning and teaching AI with Peter. But I wonder what other people think, if other people think anything.
Yeah, that's a tough one to figure out. I mean, basically, you have beginners coming here, and I would think they would want to gravitate towards an AI 101 kind of sub guild. But if you want it to be more than just AI 101, how do you name it so that it's like beginners and beyond or something like that? Or
Yeah. Um, it was always kind of a conundrum because, you know, as we all know, I cover like beginner stuff, but I cover really advanced stuff too. I get excited about stuff.
well, of course,
Um,
AI is really good at making name suggestions like this. I've done similar name suggestion prompt questions for all the different favorite AIs, and they're able to come up with some really good names. So that's what I would suggest. You know, just figure out what it is you want to, you know, have it
the
try to say. Yeah.
Yeah, the part of the problem is I'm not, and you're totally right. Thanks. You know, it's a obvious reminder, but sometimes you need to be reminded. I could totally have a chat with one of the LLMs about because the reason I hesitate talking to an LLM is because I'm not actually sure what the space does. But you know, I could certainly talk to an LLM and say, well, we do this kind of stuff, we do that kind of stuff. What are some names? So that would be
Well,
a
this
great
is sort of
exercise.
like a practical AI, you know,
Practical
practical
AI. Yep.
or something like that.
Yep. I actually there was a thing that I wanted to I like there's a pedagogical thing called a practicum, and I thought that was cool, but it's too, you know, too much of an in joke for pedag either Latin people or pedagogy people.
Pedagogical AI.
I'm gonna write that down just because. Is it pedagogical API, AI, or
AI.
AI pedagogy? I actually
Maybe,
don't.
maybe AI pedagogy sounds better.
Yeah, this one's more appropriate though. Anything else?
I'm looking at your list there. We talked about a lot of those things. Um,
There's a you know, actually another thing we could talk about profitably, with usefully, not necessarily with profit. Um, uh, RJ, you and I got into a bit of a discussion about pedagogy actually, and how to help an LLM teach you and test
Mm.
you. And you were thinking we could actually start a project to make something better that in that direction.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that in general, if we all are able to improve our skills in making AI teach us stuff, I think that can help us all. So, but the question is, does one do that? What tools do they use? Like there's new tools like, what is it called? Is it Notebook LM? The Google
yep,
thing.
yep.
Yeah, that one's one that, and that's a very useful tool perhaps, because people could load a lot of their documents and chat with the AI just about those documents, hopefully, and not have other information come in, even though it probably will. Um, but yeah, that's one example. And then, of course, you can write your own scripts to chat with AI to get it to teach you things and maybe ask you questions about it to help you make sure you're really learning it. Um, so yeah, I thought that that would be a great side project for us to just maybe regularly at some of these meetups um, talk about that topic and let it evolve sort of organically based on our needs and what we are able to discover and try to develop too.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's something it's just so it's not ready yet, but I mean, it's partially ready. I mean, AI will do some of this stuff for us, so it'd be nice if we could learn how to do it and maybe share that information. I know that education people would probably like to learn about what we found out. And it applies to everybody because everybody needs to learn stuff. And if AI can help them and be their sort of pseudo tutor to some extent, whatever extent possible. I think that if a book is involved, I think it's very easy probably for AI to help a person, especially since you can upload, like big things nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, then it's got source-based grounding, as they say. It's got source grounding, grounded truth is the source that you upload. So or yeah, or learning languages. So and students, college students, grammar school students, high school students, anybody. There's just such a big population of people that could take advantage of this. And it's just so primitive right now, but I think in certain cases, it probably could be very effective.
I agree. Vicky?
Hi, I came in very late and I missed everything, but I I just wanted to share that I had a really bizarre experience today when I was shopping, and I have never before bought a book based on the fact that I thought I could get a lot of AI prompts out of it, a lot of image prompts. So I was shopping and I came across this book. It's called Fantastic Man, which I believe is a magazine. But when I opened it and there was a picture of Brian Ferry. And I'm like, okay, I have to have this book because it's got Brian Ferry in it. But as I was reading it, it's just everything that I read was like, um, I could turn that into a prompt, like for a picture of a person. It's just so like descriptively written. And I think it's apparently it's a magazine that I've never heard of this magazine, and they feature all these fantastic men, and it's just really good writing. It's, and everything that I looked at and I'm like, okay, I want to go home and I want to use that to make a prompt. And so
That's so
expect to
cool.
see a lot of fantastic men from me in the near future.
Awesome.
It was just a really weird experience. I've never bought a book before based on the fact that, I mean, look at the photos. Look at, no,
So what's the description for that?
the description for this is on the next page. Let's see. Mr. Anthony Hegarty's success may seem sudden and intense, selling out major concert blah blah. That's not one of the good ones, but it's yeah. But I mean, you could put a lot of stuff in there, like pull a lot of stuff out of here. It's like his band is called Anthony and the Johnsons. Made 2 albums in 10 years, recorded with Boy George, took him 5 years to write Englishman in New York and all that kind of. There's just like so much stuff in there. Maybe I just like picked the right ones when
I wonder, well, besides the Brian Ferry photo, which yeah, definitely makes it worth buying.
yeah.
Um, I wonder if you have some kind of newfound superpower thing where anything you look at is going to turn into image prompts.
There's that. There is that. I mean, like there's
So
Matthew Moneypenny. Matthew Moneypenny's glorious surname is likely connected with the James Bond character Miss Moneypenny via an aunt who knew the author Ian Fleming, blah 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 blah. Like there's a story there, right? And there's a
yep,
story that
yep,
could create an image as well as like
yep.
having the story. So yeah. So that's my next series is going to be Fantastic Men. Including
Lovely. I like it.
look at him. Like
Um, that's awesome. Should we play around generating some images with those now, or
if you like.
let's try it?
Okay, let me just open a random page that's not going to be Brian Ferry.
And let me turn on captioning if it's not on already. No, it's around here someplace.
I turned it on, I think.
Yeah, I can't find it in my toolbar.
I couldn't find raise hand, so you know.
It's one of
You
those
see
days.
dead captions. Share captions.
Um, Captions, finally found it. Okay, you gonna read us a cool prompt?
You know, though, like it's not really good at capturing my voice because my accent throws it off. And I thought we'd moved on from Dragon Naturally Speaking, where I had to fake an American accent, but apparently not. Um, but yeah,
You know, it did a great job on that.
oh, I
So if you
did.
just articulate pretty well, not too far from the mic, I think it'll work.
All right, let me see. Let's go with this paragraph. He sits on the near edge of a putty-colored corner sofa in his pristine Los Angeles apartment, knees splayed and ankles crossed. I take the implication of his statement to be, and if I'm not promoting anything, then why would anyone be interested in me? To which the answer in my head, at least, is why would anyone not?
Nice. Um, it got pretty close. So let's fix it up real quick.
I'm thinking my approach to the images is that's great, whatever words you put in. That's
Right.
awesome.
Putty-colored corner sofa.
Not
Yeah,
cornice.
No, not he wasn't sitting on the cornice.
I heard corner sofa, but it did not, of course.
Yeah.
I won't put quotes in there anyway.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
So how would we I,
I don't know. I always just put the paragraph into Midjourney.
yeah,
Oh, Dali's
fair enough.
better, right? With
Well,
that
it depends what you want, right? Let's do both.
yeah.
And I feel like I don't know if we should turn the cast down or not.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe. That
Let me
seemed like a
switch
real
the
effort.
aspect ratio to portrait though.
Maybe do one of each, chaos and no chaos, so that we can get a feel?
Oh, and that is a great, thank you, Claire. That's a great example of variants. I forget what they call this. But this is a super cool thing to do. And
Oh, so it'll do for you?
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so, and you'll notice I'm putting this in the suffix, which is even more mind-blowing. You don't have to put it in the suffix, can actually be part of the prompt. And then the suffix, it doesn't care what's in there, it just gloms it onto the back of whatever you type as a prompt. So sometimes you can put pieces of prompt in the suffix, not just the flags. So now let's do an imagine on that.
So
I
that will
lost
that
it.
will put that suffix in with whatever prompt you put in until you tell it to stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I'm always running with the suffix. Usually, oh, I meant to change this. So another thing you can do is suffixes actually prefer suffix, but if you just type slash and SUF tab, it auto completes it.
Okay.
Um, uh, if you don't give it anything, it turns it all off again, which isn't what I was going for. I wanted to. So I'm going to keep the crazy sparkly moth style. Why not? So SUF, paste. I wanted to change this to be portrait instead of landscape,
Okay.
but not very portrait. Okay, so now let's do imagine this. Maybe I'll copy this one. It's kind of the same. I mean, it is the same, but okay. So then we'll also do that. So if you've got that variant in there, it actually asks you, do you want me to expand this to, 4 prompts? The limit is, and you can do multiple of them, amazingly enough, and it will do all of them. Up to about 40, I think, is its limit, 30 or 40. And
Wow.
I've gone past the limit, as you might expect. It only does it in fast mode, though. Really cool that it showed the moth for a little bit. So let's also try Dolly.
It's got this picture here, and it says this guy's photograph for a story proposing bold summer fashion to be worn by gentlemen of quite marvelous shape. See, isn't it awesome?
It's awesome. I think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of it.
I know, and I haven't bought a book in the longest time because I don't read them, but this one I can just, flick through it.
So, so are you going to take a picture of it and then use your photo thing to transcribe it so you don't have to type it?
Could do that. I could do that. I hadn't thought of that. I just wanted to use the words because the words were just like
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Different phones now will, transcribe text from
There's so many
images.
options, right? It's like
Can't.
so.
It's
Would
so
I
funny how
got
long
I
it keeps
got
taking.
I got Windows to do that. I downloaded the Power Toys, and the
Yep.
Windows Power Toys has a little cool app that will do that. And another cool app it has is actually I knew about it a long time ago. It's called Crop and Lock. So if you have like a little a spreadsheet that has something that you want to keep track of, and you want to focus on just the item in cell 1, well, you can crop and lock that. And now you have an always on top little tiny window that acts like a little post-it. You know what I
That's
mean?
so cool. Yeah.
And I've been using that for my project, my single tasking activity, because this way I always have this reminder. And when I'm ready to go to the next item, I just scroll the spreadsheet so that it scrolls up. And now the crop and lock is looking at the next item in this spreadsheet, because that's where the window now is hovering over. So it's a really cool thing to I'm so glad I found that.
pretty steamy pictures.
These are awesome. Yeah, they are.
Even this one is cool. That style ref is magic. I guess actually, so the other thing is some of these are, this is chaos 30, this is chaos 60, this is chaos 90. I like this one actually.
I
Even
like
though it's,
that. Yeah, that's good.
um, so this is definitely like a high chaos. You know, it's not very close to the prompt, but it's enough that, you know, it's still
That's not a he, that was a she.
this one.
Yeah. Oh well.
Um, the way that hits its skin in his face, that's
Uh,
awesome. This one doesn't do it for me. That one is so much similar to that other one.
mm-hmm.
I think I did down to chaos 0, yeah. So these are the chaos 0 ones, but still with the style ref.
Are these images starting to have like a name, like you have surrealism, or you know,
Surrealism?
uh, well, you know how like images over the years and art over the years had different names given to those styles. And I was wondering if these AI images are starting to get style names or just the names associated with the settings, like high chaos or whatever.
A lot
I,
of times it'll be, you know, both of those, yeah. It's a good question, RJ.
I see a lot of prompts that have bizarre names and they're like, I can't believe how pretty this is, comma, Baroque, comma, like surreal. And
Huh.
I'm thinking like, what the heck style is, I can't believe how pretty this is.
Yeah. And everything's something core, right? Cottage
Yeah,
core. Like I posted a picture today and I put Buddha core because like, whatever.
exactly. Exactly.
The describe
but Peter,
is
you
pretty
also
weird.
said cinematography or something like that is a very common one that gives really good results. A lot
Yeah,
of it has to do
anything,
with the camera. Yeah.
yeah, anything that sounds like movie still to Midjourney, it'll glom onto and make awesome. It's those are almost all
So
movie stills
maybe
already.
maybe those key prompt words will end up being, at least for the short term, names that we end up giving. The world ends up giving to certain styles of images.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Um, yeah.
Because I look at a lot of these images, and in my mind, I'm trying to process this. And I'm thinking, well, how should
What
I
style is that?
categorize this image in my mind? Yeah, because a
So
lot of
Peter
them just
Core,
sort of look fantasy. A lot of them just look fantasy to me, or psychedelic. A lot of them seem very psychedelic,
Yeah,
It's
but they don't
photo,
seem like the right words, really.
yeah.
photorealistic.
I did my movie still with the the portrait aspect ratio, so you don't get the full effect unless you also do the aspect. Let me do that. Um, so you can see that your current suffix in settings. Let me switch this to be more cinematic. Um, and actually go pretty far, two to one.
And are you all tagging your images with certain terms like this, or no?
No.
Okay.
The thing I do fairly regularly, not for, well, it depends actually. Um,
You get
Dolly
the AI,
unfortunately,
you get the AI to tag it for you? Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think it's got a default prompt. Oh, here it is here, yeah. Nope, doesn't have a default. It's amazing. I should add one. But let's do it. Uh, thought I downloaded, I guess I was going to download this image. This one would be a good one to give to Dolly-esque or OpenAI, sorry. Save image. Nope, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. Yeah, I did want to do save image. Yeah. Okay, so that's this image. And have to do a step here first. And then maybe I'll have to do another step, but we'll see. Um, this one here. And let me set the OpenAI variable, OpenAI API key variable. Uh, so it's thinking right now, it's taking a little while. Taking a long while. So this is the description, this is tags. I said, what style image is it? If it looks like a painting or something like that. So it didn't come up with any like impressionist or, I guess actually, so a different way to do this would be, if this were a classic painting, what style would you call it? It's kind of a weird thing to ask it, but yeah, it's still interesting. So of course, if we're doing these onesie twosies like this, this is kind of a clunky way to do it. It'd be easier to do. I could have asked those questions in ChatGPT. If I'm doing 100 at a time or 1,000 at a time, it's a lot easier to do it in a script like this. This is something I've noticed it does once in a while. If it thinks you're asking who somebody is, if it's, it got close enough to privacy information. So it said, yeah, I'm not going to tell you. I still wanted like a museum description of an image once, kind of like this, and it gave me this, and I said, don't, I don't want to know who this is. Don't identify this person, but tell me about, and that got it over this hump. I think if let me try that real quick here. I'm also going to try something else. I think it's dash T. Let me see if that works. It's actually dash C I'm looking for. I've got if you add dash C, it'll tell you how many tokens it used and how much it cost. So we'll wait a sec for this to come back. Hopefully it won't say, I'm sorry, I can't provide this information, because then I would have blown a half a cent or whatever. So this is a great answer. Here's the tokens in, tokens out, and the cost of it. So this costs 0.6 cents. It's not a classic painting, Pete. It's not one of those. But if it were, it's similar to Baroque. But again, let's appreciate it as contemporary digital art. So that's a great answer. I like it, even though it's kind of sassy. Thanks, Vicky.
You're welcome.
A whole new range of prompts to generate fantastic men. I look forward to it.
Oh, fantastic, man. Yeah.
It'll be a good counterbalance to all the fantastic women we see.
Yes.
Oh, that was a question I wanted to ask real fast,
Mhm.
Pete. You said something along the lines of you were generating these cool pictures, images of females, of women, and then it was like, could you give us a little diversity? Could we have some men for a change? And I wasn't sure who said that and under like what?
It's just a well, um, I have the same thing in Zoom calls. I'm in a fair number of groups that are supposed to be mixed, mixed women and men, and for whatever reason, the cliques that I'm in, some of the cliques I am, they stay that way, mixed women and men, and some of them kind of like the men act like men, trying to pontificate too much, talking over people too much, and the women kind of slowly drift away, and then we're left with a bunch of guys. So I'm sensitive to that just in Zoom calls because it happens. But especially with AI images, especially Mid-Journey, it's like it's for me, it's like, okay, out of 100 images, if you're not careful, 40 of them are going to be bikini clad, young women, which is I have nothing against that, nothing against bikini clad young women in the right context, in kind of the right proportion, with balance. There should be old people, there should be young people, there should be amazingly attractive people, there should be very, very normal looking people, whatever, right? Kind of in proportion, kind of in balance. So that was me.
So it was your own internal decision, not I'm not I thought you were saying like Mighty Network or something said, sorry,
No,
you need to, okay,
it's
thank you.
as a
Okay.
Mid-Journey artist, uh, as a Mid-Journey artist, I will often, like, I'm going through, here's 400 images from today. Which ones can I post a couple of? I will just skip over all of the women, because, what's the point? Everybody's seen, you know, that attractive woman many, many times already. So the more interesting people, or the not young people, those are the people where I go, this is something new and different. Let's focus in on those.
No bikinis for you. I got it.
Bikinis are fine on the beach, but it's when a bikini-clad
Yeah.
woman working on a mech, a robot, it's like, yeah.
As we do every day. Yeah.
Um, the so the problem came up because I thought that was a really amazing image. I love that woman's face, but then it's like, well, I'm not going to just post that woman's face because there's a longer discussion I've been having with myself, and I'm going to move this into the hey, Vicky, you're here. I'm going to bring this up in the AI ethics
Yeah.
space, but
Mhm.
um, it's it's so I end up generating these amazing images of somebody who doesn't look like me, right? They're from a different culture, and then different culture, different genetic background, whatever, right? They don't look like me. So sometimes I'll post those. Most of the time, I was like, yeah, I don't have enough context for this, and I actually ended up asking. I did this amazing series, historical people around the world. Generate. Pretend you're in the 1400s. Generate an image of, uh, somebody from Tunisia. Generate an image of somebody from 1400s Korea. Generate an image from whatever, right? So I got this amazing set of images. And then I'm like, I don't know enough of that particular culture to say it's even like culturally sensitive, insensitive, historically accurate, not accurate. The Asian Islanders in particular, I could kind of tell they got close but not close enough, kind of. And then, is that an appropriate thing for me to post anyway? So I went and asked Gemini and ChatGPT, when is it a cultural appropriation and when is it cultural appreciation? And they gave me some great answers actually. Um, and it kind of also ends up being the same thing with, people of different ages, people of different genders, people of different backgrounds. When is it appropriation to post a picture of a homeless person, and when is it appreciation, right? And they had some great background, stuff. If if you're treating the subject with appreciation, respect, you understand the background and the context in which or if you're just doing it for shock value or as a token or something like that, that's appropriation or exploitation, right? And it's funny, I asked that question about culture. It kind of works the same for gender, and it kind of works the same even for things like when is it appropriate to post a McDonald's logo? When is it exploitation of McDonald's? When is it appreciation of McDonald's? I love your laugh there, Claire. It works, I swear it does. And then of course at that level it also ties into trademark and copyright and things like that. But the same kind of concerns work everywhere. So I've been meaning to take the couple of answers I've got, shove them together a little bit, and change it from just culture to culture and other things. And there you go.
As you were talking about that, the other thing that occurred to me, and this may be like totally unrealistic, but if the demand is only for girls in bikinis, then how would AI ever learn to kind of expand that we're, that perhaps there's more to the world than just that, and that they should go in a, token whatever at some point. Because I feel like, I mean, I don't, this may not be accurate, but I feel like we're training AI a little bit at least.
Yes.
Am I unrealistic about that?
I had this conversation yesterday with Joy when we were talking about the ethics guild club, whatever it is now. And I was saying, like, when it gives you something, like, we keep saying, like, AI is like, you can't put in like private information into ChatGPT because it's training on your data. But we don't consider that when it gives you something that you don't want it to give you, you need to give it feedback so it can train on your data. Right?
Yeah.
And she said, I hadn't thought about it like that before. And I'm like, well, we just need to turn the tables just a little bit.
I actually asked it the other day. I said, you made an error. I can't remember now. It was an error in grammar or something. I said, do you want me to tell you about that or just like not? And it's like, sure, yeah, I'm open to all feedback. Blah, blah, blah. So I tried to be nice because I want to be pleased and thank you, and I don't want it to think that people are horrible people since we're quickly approaching, whatever we're approaching. I want him to like me, but I also want him to use proper grammar.
I did the same thing. Like, I'm always telling it, like, you use the word utilize incorrectly. And that's because like 99% of people who use the word utilize use it incorrectly. So we have to keep telling it that you're doing it wrong.
I think there's a misconception though a lot of people have, because normally when you use a language model, it's not in training mode at all. It has the short-term memory because it sort of has like a little buffer in its context window, but it's not a long-term memory unless the model's been set up specifically to track your conversations and store them in a database that it can tap into. But its neural network is not learning from what you're saying, in that sense. And I think a lot of people don't understand that at all, that normally when you're chatting with a model, it's in what they call inference mode. where it's responding to your questions and making an inference to just decide what the answer should be. It's not in training mode at all.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Tell real people not to use utilize, so I'm going to tell my GPT not to use utilize.
You could, with something like that, you could send an email to OpenAI or whoever. Not that they would care, um, but that's where you could change maybe its training.
And your conversations might be stored, and if you allowed them to, then maybe
Yeah.
they'll look at your data, but they're gonna curate your data and scrub it and make sure that it's what they want to train the model. And it'll be during a training session, which is not an inference session, and it's totally separate activity. And it takes a long time to train a language model because they have to do it multiple times to get the loss number down to what it's supposed to be. So that's just in generic. Now there may be hybrid models coming out now that can learn and chat with you and things like that, but they're set up specifically to do that. But most models are not set up that way in order to learn while you're talking to it permanently. They only learn because of their context window, and it's only a short memory that they learn things for, and that all goes away once the conversation is over. And the conversation might get summarized by the dialogue manager down to a small summary, which it may store if it's set up that way. But it's not the neural network that's learning. It's just tapping into that summary that's in a separate, little data file. So
Does that explain why it doesn't matter how many times I tell Midjourney 5 is the number after 4 and before 6? That it still does not always get it right.
That's why.
Okay.
And
Well,
and a
folks,
lot another thing people don't realize. Sorry, Peter. Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Another thing that people don't realize is that the words are getting translated by the encoding and so on into numbers. So unless they've trained the model in a certain way to deal with that in certain situations, it's like getting it to count, getting it to do a 500 word result is going to be tricky for it because it's doing things in tokens, so then it would have to have the capability to translate those tokens back to a word count, but it doesn't have that capability. So that's why you'll ask it for, summarize this in 500 words, and you'll never get 500 words, unless they specially set up some strange, capability, but that's very rare.
ChatGPT, the GPT-4 has some capability to do that. It'll, like, when I ask it for 10 or 20 of something, it knows to do 10 or 20. So it's got some special processing for some of that, not all of it.
Yeah, the dialogue manager is probably doing that for it. I doubt if it's
Yeah.
doing it itself.
No, not the inference engine.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, folks, I had a lot of fun. Thanks for being here.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
this
having
was
For all the
really
questions, discussion.
very helpful for me. Thank you.
I'm really close to getting, like, it's going to be the whole month of February that I'm going to post. There's like 4 or 5 I'm behind now, but I'm going to get them posted real soon now. So, including this one.
Well, do you have to do so much work for this, Peter? Because I'm wondering how many people are actually reading things. Like, if I can understand uploading videos, yeah, that they would probably.
It's actually just the uploading videos,
Oh, okay.
and I've got other calls that I'm on, and so Zoom does this weird thing of how they name videos, and it's a whole thing, and I end up doing a lot of processing, not data processing, workflow actually. I started writing up a workflow and then I got distracted, and so I've kind of got to make it up every time. I started automating actually. Maybe that's the problem. I always feel guilty that I don't have my automation running yet. But anyway, I'll get better at what happens also is once I miss one or two, then it's even harder to go back and it's like, well, I could do this one, but I should really do all of them. And it's a round to it problem.
Well, I hope it's not taking up too much of your time because, I suspect that people have so many things they're looking at besides this kind of thing that, maybe there's not really too many views that you're getting. So why would it be worth, so much effort? Maybe instead, well, one thing you can do is if your account allows, you can just give them the link to the Zoom video, and then you don't have to do any work.
Yeah, it fills up super fast.
Yeah.
So and I
Or
could buy more space, but it makes more sense to, it's Zoom isn't a good long-term storage for recorded videos. I just have to be a little bit more mindful, have my workflow set up and all that kind of stuff. So I'll get better at it.
yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Take
Yeah,
care.
we'll see you tomorrow.
Cool.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Bye.
Bye.